pandemic, and that's South Africa's fiscus. We continue to look ahead at this afternoon's emergency budget, which is to be tabled by Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. We talk now to Nedbank economist Matshego. Isaac, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. One of the interesting elements here is that we aren't necessarily perhaps able to hike up when it comes to more taxes for this budget, but we have to find a way to decrease costs even more than before.
Good day, Mr. Gumeda. It's been a long time. Definitely, the minister is in a very tight spot. Remember that hiking taxes is not advisable in a very weak economy, because basically what happens in that situation is that the higher taxes often depress investment levels further. We've seen that happening since the tax hikes in 2016. 2017 and also 2018. So definitely the focus has got to be on the expenditure side. And the minister has already hinted that by sort of declaring that we've got to start looking at zero-based budgeting.
Do you get a sense then that that will be kind of the way to go? I mean, I can imagine that it's not an easy process, so it won't be done over the next, perhaps even up until February maybe. Do you think, though, that it is a process that the government has committed itself to, getting a zero-based budget?
Well, I believe that it will virtually be impossible for the government to even talk about a zero-based budget, because, you know, those budgets or that form of budgeting is ideal in governments that sort of balance their budgets, where they have enough revenue to meet all the expenditure needs. So in South Africa, I mean, right now, government has got to adopt a counter-cyclical stance. That simply means that government will have to do a lot to ensure that it helps the recovery of this economy.
The growth levels, and especially the levels then of debt to South Africa's GDP, has been one matter that has obviously been looked at, and that will be a primary lookout point as well when it comes to the data that comes out at 3 p.m. today. Do you think that that number will certainly surpass that 80% figure for this fiscal year?
Most likely, because there's going to have to be a significant increase in government expenditure. And on the revenue side, there's going to be a huge shock. I mean, SARS has already warned us that tax collections could be as much as 300 billion rand below what was expected in the February budget. But what I will stress is that I believe that, you know, we've got to look through the COVID-19 shock, i.e., we should tolerate in the short term high numbers, but once the economy has picked up, we've got to do all we can to ensure that we bring the debt levels back to sustainable levels.
Can we get back to where we used to be, and how long would it take if we are able to?
Well, it's going to depend a lot on how the COVID-19 disaster plays out. It's going to turn out depending on the rate of economic recovery in South Africa. That's going to be very key. Government is going to have to demonstrate a commitment towards really getting this economy going. We're going to have to sort of stimulate new levers of growth. Actually, the levers of growth that we've had but have been idle, if I can put it like that. We're going to have to address the power supply challenges. And just on that, maybe there's the time to really accelerate the implementation of the integrated resource plan. So, you know, we're going to, as a country, need to be committed to get this economy growing, because higher growth rates and, of course, inclusive growth will help us to really address the socio-economic challenges that are going to be worsened, by the way, by this crisis.
Yeah. All right. Matshego, thank you so much for the time. Hopefully we can chat to you as well after this budget to perhaps get your thoughts on it as well. Did it meet the standards, and did it meet your expectations and projections as well? Matshego is a senior economist then at Nedbank, joining us for that discussion.